Good morning, train fans. Bruce Tucker here with another edition of the Morrisania and Harlem River Railroad video. Today, I'd like to do something a little different, and that is probably the reason why you see this layout behind me. First, I'd like to give a little shout out to my special train fans, my grandchildren, Ellie and Julian, who love to visit their pop-pop and love to run pop-pop's trains. And I know you're watching this video too, so that's why I wanted to give you some special attention. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different, and that is I'm going to be talking about HO trains rather than the O gauge, which you normally see on my channel. I just wanted to point out that in addition to being a collector and an operator of O gauge trains, I also like to collect and operate HO. I haven't been able to do much with HO because I've been concentrating a lot on my O gauge trains for the past year or so. But I finally did get around to doing some bench work, and you can see some of the results of that right here. This is a 4x8 frame that I made, and I put a 2-inch thick slab of 4x8 foam on top, and it's supported by the legs. And I also have a section that's 4x4, which is right behind me. And so what I've done is I've created something of an L-shaped layout. And I've got some track laid out on top of it with some of the Bachman imitation grass that you see there. I realize it's not as elaborate, let's say, as some of the other landscaping that I've seen on other HO layouts around, but this, for now, will suffice for me. I even have a little plastic mountain in the background there with 2 tracks running through it. So I've been able to run 2 ovals on this layout. And what I'm also planning to do is run both DC locomotives on this HO layout and DCC, okay? Now, for those of you who are familiar with these terms, okay, you know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who are not, the difference between DC and DCC is pretty simple. DC is very much power to the track, and that's what controls the trains. The more voltage you give to the track, the faster the train is going to go. And if you reverse the polarity, okay, using an electronic term there, but if you reverse the polarity, you will reverse the direction of the locomotive. It's that simple. The locomotives might have a headlight on them, and when there's power to the track and power to the train, then the headlight's going to illuminate. You don't have much in the way of, let's say, real sophisticated remote control over the train other than its movement, okay? Now, what's happened in the last 20, 30 years is that computer technology and electronics have made it possible to miniaturize things and computer circuits so that you can put some of that inside your locomotive. And what this means is that instead of providing power to the track and controlling the trains that way, you provide full power to the track, meaning about 14 volts. And then there's a decoder or a chip inside the locomotive that actually decides how fast or how slow the train is going to go, whether the horn is going to go off, whether the headlight's going to come on, and any other of a myriad of special effects that can be put into that little locomotive to make it more like the prototypical real locomotive that you might see out there in the everyday world. So all of that realism, of course, comes at a price because DCC is more expensive. To purchase a DCC locomotive these days, probably the average would be anywhere from $200 to $400, maybe even higher, depending on the type of locomotive you're buying, whether it's a diesel or a steam engine. But the DC locomotives, which of course don't have all of the circuitry in them, are a lot less expensive. You can purchase a brand new DC locomotive HO for maybe $100. You can also go to train shows like I do, and a lot of times you'll see a lot of DC locomotives for less than $100, maybe even as low as $30 or $25. And I actually have picked up quite a few of them that way. And because I am handy with a soldering iron, and my hands are still steady enough to be able to do some of the work with the wiring, I'm able to convert older DC locomotives, maybe some of the ones that came in Athearn kits, and actually put a decoder in them so that they can be controlled by a DCC controller. And a DCC controller could be in the same form as you might be used to with DC. That is, the controller would look like a power pack. and it would have a throttle on it. The only difference is that on a DCC controller, in addition to just having a throttle control and maybe a switch for forward and reverse, you actually can do some programming on that locomotive, and you can turn on and off various functions that that locomotive has. You can increase or decrease the sound volume if there's a speaker in there, things like that. So as we go along and as I develop my HO layout here, I'm going to be talking about a lot of these things, and we'll kind of zoom in and, like they say, do a deep dive on some of them so that you understand a little bit better how these things really work. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. I'm going to be going back and forth between my O gauge layout and my HO layout from time to time, showing you something new there. And I also, I am a big fan of history. I'm an amateur historian. I do teach some adult ed classes in history for an adult ed program. So I like to share history as well. And so if there is a little history that I can share with you on some of these things, then I'm going to try to do that. I'll talk about the history of the locomotive, or maybe the history of that particular model made by whatever company it is, whether it's Lionel or Bachmann or Athearn or any of the others. Or I might be talking about some techniques as far as track switches, power supplies, things like that. So I've got a whole repertoire of different topics that I can talk about here and share with you. And I'm looking forward to doing that. I want to do a shout out and thank all my subscribers. I just hit 200 subscribers on my channel, and I'm looking forward to adding many, many more. And so if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. And if you're already a subscriber, then I would appreciate if you would please comment if you have any suggestions, and continue to watch my channel. And I hope that I'll bring something to you that perhaps you didn't know. And that's my goal here. So I hope you enjoy all of this as much as I do. And until then, okay, I'm going to show you a few more things as part of this video that you won't see me, but you'll see the objects on the track. But I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. So please stay well, be careful out there. And if you're not doing anything else and you have trains, you should run them, okay? And see you soon. Bye for now. Okay, so what we're looking at here is an old Athearn Union Pacific diesel locomotive that I've actually converted from DC to DCC. And if you listen carefully, you can hear the engine running, or the motor running, inside this locomotive, because it does have a speaker inside it. And there's a chip in there that's got memory, and the memory is storing the sound of a diesel locomotive that's simply idling on the track. Now, this is a DCC locomotive. It has a decoder inside it. So this means that I can control various functions on it using either a throttle, and I'll show you that in a second, or you can also be using over Wi-Fi an application you can download from the internet onto your smartphone or your tablet, okay? Now you'll notice here that the headlight is not on. I'm going to turn the headlight on using my application on my tablet. You see the headlight come on? Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is blow the horn. All right. If I want to, I can now back the train up a little bit and stop it. Move it forward a little bit. And stop it. All right. Trying to do this with one hand and hold the camera is not easy. What you also see in the background here, all right, another locomotive. Now this one is a Bachmann, and it's a GG1 in the classic Tuscan coloring from the Pennsylvania Railroad. This particular locomotive, I did not have to put a decoder in because it was already installed by Bachmann, and I was able to purchase it for a very reasonable price, just a little over $100, okay? But this locomotive, okay, I actually obtained from one of my neighbors who used to have an HO layout, and it was a DC layout, and he gave it to me. He wasn't using it anymore, so it didn't cost me anything. And the only expense I had in converting it to DCC was the purchase of the decoder chip. And in a future video, I'll show you what those look like and how they are installed in these locomotives. But suffice to say, that decoder chip cost me about $25. Not really a lot of money considering. Now, if you have one that's got a speaker and some sound capability in addition to just moving the locomotive forward and reverse, those will cost maybe $35 to $45. Digitrax makes some relatively inexpensive decoders if you're just getting into using DCC and you're installing the decoders yourself. All right, I want to just show you here also a couple of other things. Here we have a DC power pack. This would be the type that comes with a Bachmann train set, okay? And all it does is provide voltage to the track, and you have a switch on there to move from forward to reverse, and a throttle knob. You see that throttle knob right here. You can increase or decrease the speed that way. All right, now I'm going to show you what a DCC throttle looks like. This is a Digitrax DCS52, and it has a throttle on it, as you can see. And here's the throttle control, all right? And it also has a lever here, very similar to what you might find on a real locomotive, with forward, applying a brake, or reverse. Okay, there's also an indicator here that shows that there is track power on the track. And now we have things that are more complicated, which I will explain in another video. And that is this LCD screen that you see here that shows the locomotive that is currently being addressed by the system. And it's locomotive number 1959. These numbers are important because that's how the DCC system can keep track of the different locomotives that might be on your layout. Also, if you're doing any programming on your decoders on the track, you can use these buttons here, these numeric keys, to control the functions of the locomotive or to program them. So that's the Digitrax DCS52. We'll look at that some more in future videos. Now, you might be wondering if you're going to run DC and DCC at the same time on your layout, how one arranges to do that. Well, I'm planning to use a switch like you see here, where the DCC power will be coming in on this side here, and the DC will be coming in from this side, right? So the track power would be coming from the middle here, all right? So when I switch from one side to the other, I'll be going from DCC on the one side to DCC on the other side. It's as simple as that. Now, the last thing here that I want to show you, and I realize this is probably a longer video than some of the other ones that I've done, you can see my iPad tablet. This happens to be an older generation 5-inch Apple iPad tablet. But I have the Wi-Fi application to control the locomotives on my layout on the screen here. And you can see right now there's only one locomotive that is active, and that's number 1423 in the upper left-hand corner. And you can see the throttle control to increase or decrease the speed of the locomotive going forward or reverse, and then the various functions that can be controlled by simply pressing those buttons. There's also an emergency stop. You can see there, right? And this throttle control allows you to control up to 4 trains simultaneously on your layout. Now, I could also be controlling a 5th train by simply using my console over here, okay? So there's quite a lot of versatility in this system, and we'll talk more about this again in future videos. So I think for now, that's probably enough. And I'll have to save some for future videos. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned some things, and I hope you'll join me on my journey to completing this HO layout as we continue in this wonderful hobby of model railroading. Until then, I wish you all to be safe and enjoy the holiday weekends, and be careful out there. And again, if you have trains, please do run them. Take care for now. Bye.